Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Premier League panel show. We are back in action. We might have actually more. We're gonna have a Chelsea sighting, so we're waiting on that. But we do have other sighting. But Jake is back in action after missing the fun and all the Spurs hate last week. How's it going, Jake?
Oh, it's going well. Better this week for sure.
And Alan's with us, who really missed you last week, but he's back in action, and I am sure. How are you doing this week? Actually, should ask you. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing perfectly fine. There are bigger things than football going on in my life, so there's that too.
But the football part of it, we'll talk about. Okay, so let's start with this. We're gonna go over the scores. Obviously, I do want to ask you guys. About obviously the big game, if you will, of the weekend and what happened there. And then, kind of get your guys' take on in terms of the calls, how people played and stuff like that. But before we start the whole shebang over here, let's go back to last week. I really wish Alex was here, but this is a clip from last week, which actually went on YouTube as well. Here we go. Team and stuff like that, but I am going with Brentford as well. The way they play and the way they played against City, and man, Brentford could be. So this is basically they already played Liverpool, they played City, and mind you, while they lost, they didn't lose poorly, and they played well in both games. I can see that team actually being in 6 to 8 because the rest of their schedule obviously is going to be a lot easier. You're not liking this?
Shoot me. Wasn't that when didn't Frank say that last year where he was like, we're playing team? Didn't he make a comment about that? We're playing teams tough, and he said something to that effect, and then they ended up in whatever they were 15th or whatever.
A lot of Brentford hate.
You ever met a Brentford fan? Has anyone here ever met a Brentford fan?
I have not met a single Brentford.
It's a fake club.
I have not.
No. The funny thing is, we had a clip.
Other fans, Sunderland fans have never met
about actual Brentford fans, and do they exist? So I was at the fan fest. We were looking all over the fans. And we did a couple of seasons ago.
I think we still hear the sound from the previous.
Are you still here? It should be gone now, right?
It's gone now. Yeah.
Okay,
we're good.
We were still looking for. Gordo and I were there representing Liverpool and American Scouser at the Fan Fest, and I did run into a few, but Gordo has gone above and beyond because I did catch a couple in the wild, and I took a picture so that Alex would see it and stuff like that. But we have gone above and beyond, and we have one here in the flesh. Joining the panel. Glenn, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Good evening, everyone. We do exist. We're a real club. Alex should know better. We're rivals. I think Alex is sad. I was in person at Craven Cottage a couple of years ago, and we won 4-1. And I'm sure Alex is still horrified by those memories. But yeah, it's great to be on. It was really funny. I bumped into Gordo at the Fan Fest, and he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I had a second, and I assumed he wanted me to take a photo or whatever. We were all just hanging out.
Just another fan.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought, just wanted a quick chat, and then he's saying, I got this podcast, and we had this segment, and we're just talking about the lack of Brentford fans. So yeah, we're real, and it was funny actually. I watched the clip back, and somebody commented on it. They're like, you actually have to go to Brentford to meet a real Brentford fan, and that's where I'm from. I'm from West London, so the comment was pretty true, to be fair.
Well, welcome to the panel, man. I mean, yes, once Gordo told me, because I ran into him, I was like, dude, did you see there was a Brentford fan there? And he was like, I talked to one. By the way, Jake, are you in Chicago as well or no?
Sorry?
Are you in Chicago?
No, I'm in Denver.
Oh, okay. Alan, Did you end up going to the Fan Fest?
I did. I almost died.
You were there Sunday, right?
Yes.
Was that I was there Saturday, and watching it on TV on Sunday, I kind of figured it was a miserable experience. Was it as miserable as it looked? Because I'm like, my wife and I were like, it has to be a mud fest out there because it was the day before.
I slipped and fell on the celebration of our first goal, and then I almost got trampled. and luckily my friend Ethan saved my life and made sure that I was able to, eventually come see my new nephew this week. But man, no, it was wild. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people that have been to matches. I haven't been to a match yet. I'm going in October, but they've told me that this is like an away. This was like an away atmosphere, especially considering it was against a city, and the city fans were very quiet and they weren't there. So, yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, even on Saturday, there were a couple of City fans walking around, but it was like, I saw like several Arsenal fans walking around. What did you think of the fan fest, Glenn?
I loved it. I was really impressed, to be fair. It was really nice to watch a Brentford game with other Brentford fans. I mean, that's not an experience I've had in the US.
You were shocked they exist as well.
I was, at least in Chicago. I wasn't expecting. I mean, we had somebody who flew all the way from Seattle. He's founded the Seattle Bees fan club out there, and he flew the whole way. It's incredible. We had fans coming up from Atlanta, Brentford fans. So people were, crossing across the US to get there, which is so impressive. And I know a lot of fans from different clubs did that as well. But yeah, I loved it. I mean, I had like 15-20 minutes, right, Jake, where I could celebrate being 1-0 up with a group of friends, and it was really good. And we did it again. We scored after 20 seconds, and I mean, what a way to kick it off as a Brentford fan. But yeah, I mean, generally, I was really impressed with the experience. I thought there were loads of activities. Everyone seemed to be having a really good time, and honestly, it was like some of the friendliest groups of people I've met. I mean, obviously, me and Gordo got talking. I talked to Brentford fans I've never met before. I'd never met any of them in person. And yeah, I was really blown away. I know, it was a surprise. It was like looking in a mirror or something. It was incredible. And honestly, the fact I was watching Brentford, so I've watched this in League 2, League 1, Championship. Like the fact I was in Chicago, major US city, watching Brentford. Not one, we weren't like the Ipswich boys and fans and girls watching them on a tiny screen. We had 2 screens, which you can attribute to the Spurs fans, sure. But I was watching Brentford in two full screens in a park in Chicago at an event that was like, it was fully sold out. I mean, those lines we had.
Yeah,
it filled up by 7:30, right? And thousands of people seemed to be waiting to get in for the entire time. So, yeah, I was blown away. And I thought, the kind of whole Premier League Mornings team were great with their interactions. It was great to meet some club legends. Brentford, I think, were the best represented club for the number of legends we brought. We brought 3 people, which was really fun, former players. So that was really cool. And then Southampton brought Matt Letizia and Ricky Lambert. And I ended up chatting to Ricky Lambert for like 20 minutes, which was quite surreal because I've watched him growing up playing for Southampton, and obviously you guys for a little bit as well. So yeah, I had a great time. I wish I could do it all again. I mean, I was super impressed.
Like I say, I expected maybe more. It was kind of cool, especially, like we're soccer fans in the US. So it's almost like, you like soccer too? So there's a lot of like, we're in this together kind of a thing going where everybody has like a common interest that might not go to the masses kind of a thing. So that was kind of cool because, even when you met like Spurs fans, United fans, Arsenal fans and stuff like that, it was like friendly banter. But I guess here's what I wanted to ask, actually, Alan, which there are not a lot of City fans, I guess, so that kind of like eliminate that. Heck, there's not a lot of City fans in the Etihad, so there weren't a lot of City fans over there in Chicago. But, was it a bit more tense compared to Saturday? I don't think you were there Saturday, but Saturday was very friendly. Even when people were playing against each other, it was like, you like soccer too? High five. We just beat your ass. And then, we kept going. But I kind of felt because of how the game was, the importance of the game and the cards and all that kind of stuff, was it a bit more tense there on Sunday?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more tense. I know I heard from other people saying that it was super friendly on Saturday and people got along and it was kumbaya. But Sunday was a different story. It was definitely, I actually had to play peacemaker at one point because a few of my groups and a few of the city group was actually like antagonizing each other to the point that it almost went down into fisticuffs at the end of the match, just like it almost did at the game itself. So I had to step in and shout out to my friend Haley and my friend Vivian who were in the forefront of that, but we had to like step in a little bit and make sure that they didn't go any further. So there's that.
Yeah, I kind of assumed it would be just because it was down to only those fans. And like I say, everybody was there. It felt like Saturday. It was a very big mix. I mean, you had people standing in sixes where, like 2 of them were this club, 1 of them was this club and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, overall a fun event. It's kind of good to see, other Premier League fans, and Brentford fans, most importantly. But speaking of other teams' fans, I always here with United. How is it going, my friend?
Good, good. It's been a while I've been on. How have you guys been?
It's been a while, but not a lot has changed, huh?
We're marginally better than last season. Marginally better.
Okay, I do want to, because I know we don't have you for the full hour, so I do want to get to United. But let's take a look at the week real quick. West Ham 0, Chelsea 3. I did not get to see this game except while I was like standing in the line for a couple of minutes when they were showing it over there. But based on everything I've heard, Chelsea made easy work of this. I'm not going to go around, but I kind of want to ask it to the middle, and you guys can jump in. Has your opinion of Chelsea changed over the last month?
No.
No. So, I mean, do we still see them as, close your ears, Io, but like a United that's going to struggle, occasionally, but a good squad that can occasionally, obviously can get the results because there's quality players as well? Jump in. I'm
increasingly impressed by them, to be honest. I think obviously we had the whole jokes with the size of their squad, right? And it's been a bloated squad, and they had to, despite continually signing people on these ridiculous contracts, they did get rid of a couple of people too. Obviously Gallagher, which was not to their benefit, but Sterling obviously making the surprising move. I think a lot of us thought to Arsenal right on deadline day. But I think you're seeing a bit more cohesion. I mean, obviously the proof is going to be in consistency, right? This is what we saw with Chelsea last season. They looked great for even 45 minutes, and then they kind of fell apart again. But I do feel if you've got a player like Cole Palmer, and if he is even 80% as good as he was last season, I think he can really do a lot in the middle of the park. And I think Chelsea were as good as West Ham were bad, because I was just coming into the Fan Fest, so I caught most of the second half and a bit of the first, a little bit of first half as well. And like West Ham were really, really poor. And I mean, if you're letting Nicholas Jackson just run down the line and essentially toe poke it in, obviously there's issues there. But I'll tell you what, his second finish as well, Jackson looked much more confident in front of goal. And if Palmer's creating chances, obviously they have a load of wingers. They scored 5 goals tonight in the cup. It doesn't matter. It was against Barrow, but they do seem a team that is increasingly confident. And if they can get the best out of their squad, obviously it's a high quality, expensive squad. We know all the jokes about it, but if he can get it to work, the manager, then they will be formidable. I mean, there's a lot of goal scorers in there. It's just a case of consistency for them, I think.
Well, speaking of, now we have Chelsea represented as well with Jamie. Jamie, how's it going, sir?
Hey guys, nice to talk to you all. I couldn't have said it better myself, Glenn. I think the proof will be in the pudding of whether or not we can be more consistent. But this is the first 90 minutes we've strung together. I think we've shown patches, 45 minutes here and there, 45 minutes against Palace. We were really, really strong. But we've even started to get performances out of strugglers. So from last season, Robert Sanchez in goal, he was a weak link. Cucurella has come on leaps and bounds, and even Enzo Fernandez. I view myself as captain of the Enzo Fernandez is overrated club, but he was even consistent this week. And Caicedo has been putting in stronger and stronger performances week in, week out. So I think there's positivity at Stamford Bridge at the moment. So it's early days. We're 4 games into the season, but I think if you'd offered Chelsea fans 7 points at the beginning of the season after 4 games, we would have all bitten your hand off.
Really? Okay, that's interesting to know, actually. I kind of figured it would be still some kind of a frustration, but Shea isn't here. Villa, it looked like it was going to go south for a while, but they come back, beat Wolves 3-1. Fulham, as Alex was saying, whenever they win, Alex can make it to the show. They win 3-1. Southampton won, Ipswich won, and let's get to Spurs. So, Jake, obviously, we really missed you last week. I know Alan did. But so what are you at with Tottenham right now? Is it like the up and down? Was the Arsenal game a blip? Or is this what you're going to see like moving forward?
I think it's all just part of the process. Obviously, didn't look too hot in the cup game either. So it's not like we just had one bad performance against Arsenal. But I think it's going to happen with the system. You're going to have these games where you just can't create enough, but you're controlling the ball a lot. So obviously, were not able to score against Arsenal. Got 2 late goals against Coventry to save our cup run. And then the Brentford game, I mean, after the first 23 seconds, I was like, this is not happening. I cannot believe that we're just not good again. You know, I liked what we were seeing under Ange for Burst last season. But then just complete dominance for the rest of that half. And I thought it was one of our best performances in a long, long time. And hopefully we can springboard off that. I hope it's not a fluke and that next week against United, we keep that going. So in my opinion, I think those poor performances are the blips and that this is kind of how we are going to be playing football more consistently.
So when do you, I mean, let me ask you this while I have you, because I think we talked about this briefly last week, or maybe we talked about one of our morning shows. But whenever I listen to your manager, there's like, if you read in between the lines, he always makes it sound like there are some problems in the background that he's not too thrilled with. Obviously, last week he talked about the mindsets of the fans and stuff like that. But even last week, he said something that almost like, he didn't come out and say it, but the way he says something sometimes, he makes it sound like there are some issues that he's not too thrilled with. Am I just reading too much into that, or is that just how he rolls? Because he's a pretty honest, straightforward dude.
Yeah, I think you can read a lot into some of the things he says, but I think maybe people are reading too much into it. And that's just kind of how he talks. And I think he's definitely thinking long term, which I hope he gets that opportunity to go long term. And maybe sometimes he says things that come off like he's hinting at things behind the scenes, but I think he's just trying to tell it as it is. And, you know, sometimes other people read into it, but I'm not. And I think he knows what he's doing and just got to trust the process, as it were.
And for you, Glenn, so this whole conversation started because I was saying, you know, like we heard in the clip that, you know, you guys are getting the tough games away. But at the end of the day, there are still like mounting losses and you don't get points for putting up a fight. Does as a Brentford fan, what only Brentford fan, do you kind of like look at it and say, okay, at least these tough ones are out of the way, now we can be good? Or is there a concern because there's no guarantee that you're going to win the easier games that are on paper?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, first of all, credit to Spurs, because I thought they were really impressive throughout most of the game, especially after that start, right? I thought for me, James Maddison, it was one of the best games I've seen for him in a Spurs shirt. He was unplayable. Brennan Johnson, look at what a bit of confidence there's to him. So they were really dangerous and they were really good in transition as well, which was a challenge for us. But yeah, looking at it, you know, more holistically, the last couple of games, I'm really absolutely fine with where we're at. You know, we've played 3 really hard teams away from home, right? So we've gone to Spurs, horrible place to go. We've gone to the Etihad. We've gone to you guys at Anfield. Honestly, you don't expect to get points. Now, you don't see it. I don't see it as a free hit, which is we just show up, we get beat, we go home. What we've actually managed to do, right, is we've put in good performances. We've made it hard for each 3 of you guys. Every one of those 3 teams we've gone to, we've made you work hard for the win. And I think the moment that really crystallized it for me was we are you know, it's the end of the game at the Etihad, just, you know, a week or so ago, and Haaland is on a hat-trick, and if he gets this hat-trick, he'll break a Premier League record, right? Everyone in the stadium wants him to score except us, of course. And Kevin De Bruyne gets the ball, right? And he takes it to the corner flag. City basically we have played so well and they are so, you know, cautious, rightfully so, about us nicking something at the end that they don't even go on the attack in the extra time. They actually take it to the corner flag, which I think really is testament to the quality that we've shown across those games. With that, still, I totally get it. No points out of 9 there. But what we have done is we've won the 2 home games, right? We've played Palace, we've played Southampton, and, you know, Palace were really decent. There was the Eze free kick that, you know, should have stood, arguably, I think it should have, but we still got the win. And Southampton, hey, you know, they are playing out from the back, which we've done. That's how we, you know, conceded a goal just this weekend against you guys, against Spurs. We played out from the back dangerously, but Southampton did it multiple times and we punished them each time, right? So we've won the home games we were hoping to win. We've played well in the games that maybe we weren't expecting to win. And I think the real test for us is going to be, we have a great couple of fixtures now. We have West Ham, then Wolves at home. United away, which isn't as maybe scary as it would have been a few years ago. And then we have Ipswich at home. So we have a really good selection of fixtures, you know, maybe, you know, taking away Old Trafford. that will be the proof, I think. If we can deliver decent points and decent results against those teams, I think it's a great time to play West Ham. Watching the performance they put in against Chelsea, great time to play them. Can we get, 9 points out of those games? That's what I'd be hoping for, right? And if we can do that, brilliant. But right now, I'm feeling good. We played good against all these tough teams, and I think we've really done ourselves proud.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying last week, and then then Alex started. But yeah, I mean, the only issue is there's no guarantee. I mean, kind of like like when Liverpool were like, oh, we gotta win. These are like the games that look easier on paper sometimes are the ones that come to bite you in the ass. I mean, Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0. Shit, when they scored that goal that was knocked off with like the VAR, that kind of like was a mini scare. But I mean, apparently they didn't watch the Forest game because they came out. When the recipe is out there, I know like teams want to play the way they play, but when the recipe is out on how to beat Liverpool, when they just showed you last week what you got to do, and then you come on and be like, nah, we'll do what the other guys did who lost. I mean, you're gonna lose, and I mean that's probably. It was nice because it was easy watching at the Fan Fest. It was just like very stressless second half. Because when it was 0-1, that was the part with the Fan Fest. There was this little kid. Where did Jamie go? Like a little Chelsea fan who I'm hoping I meet and beat FIFA on PlayStation soon. He was talking all kinds of smack, and then he disappeared once it was 3-0, shockingly. So that was good. Okay, let's go back to this. And I do want to get to you because I know we don't have you for the full show. Crystal Palace 0, United 0. It's been a while since we had you on. Where are you with this United team? And where were you when we played you guys a couple of weeks ago?
I was watching from afar. Where am I with United's team? I think United is marginally better than last season. And when I say marginally better, just because, first of all, I think we signed good players. We have healthy players on the field. I think just by that alone, we are going to be better. When you just have players on the field, good players on the field. Where I am this team, I think this team is going to be a Europa League team. That's where we can end up at the end of the season. I think if we had a better manager, we'll compete for top 4. I think keeping Ten Hag was a big mistake. I think I've not said that. I'm not being here this season. I think that was a huge mistake for 2 reasons. I think one, first of all, the 2 most important competitions that a club like United should be judged by is the Champions League and the Premier League. And his performances in both were a train wreck. That was a disaster for both. We came 8th and we crashed out bottom of our group with a group that had who was in our group again? Some random people in our group. Galatasaray. And some Norwegian team or some Danish team. Can't remember right now. Molde or something. Copenhagen, exactly. Thank you. So that's just unacceptable, in my opinion. And then you give him a job because he wins an FA Cup in a random one-off game. The second reason why I think was a big mistake is clearly, even with that, it was clear that they still had doubts about him, right? They were clearly talking to De Zerbi, Tuchel. So you clearly had doubts about him. And when you already know that already, you might as well just let him go when you already have doubts. So anyways, but that being said, I think we have some good players that we got. I think I like Mazraoui. I like the kid we got from Bologna, Xerxes. I like him also. The problem with the team is the goals. I look at the team. I look at the plan. It seems that for the last 3 years, right, we've not scored more than 50-something goals every season under Ten Hag. And he struggles to find the balance of how can I attack and still have a good defensive structure. He struggles with that. It's clear and it's very obvious. And that's why we don't score goals. So it's either he overcommits and we get caught in transition like what happened against Liverpool, or he tries to be a bit cautious where we spend so much time just playing the ball within our defenders and don't do anything, and we don't create enough chances. Against Palace, we created some good chances in the first half, in my opinion. But I think a lot of that game was over-indexed by a lot of United fans because that's like the best we've seen United have control of a game. But Palace didn't even press. They did not press us in that first half. Yeah. And the way they changed their tactics in the second half, he could not react. So where I am with this United team is, let's just give me a marginally better team. And what I mean by that is we will beat the bad teams like the Southamptons. We'll beat them. just because we have more talent.
Yeah.
We might beat decent teams, the Palaces, or we might draw them. Or on a bad day, we might lose to them. But we most likely will lose to all the good teams. And maybe sneak a draw here and there against the good teams at home. Like I think the game against Spurs will be like a draw next week. Like that has a draw written all over it. Because both teams have like big flaws. And that's just not good enough. Third season, almost £600 million spent. That's not good enough, in my personal opinion. So that's kind of why
you're putting it mostly on the manager then, because I think we talked about this as a panel before, where he's been there. I mean, I don't know, like obviously, I might be a bit more biased, but Slot has showed up, and I don't know, like you guys can chime in on this too, but we can already tell within the first 3-4 months, because we watched this team in and out. I mean, everybody over here knows their teams really well. We can already see some of the changes, and like how we're doing things differently than what Klopp does. I mean, that dude has been there for a while, and I still don't know how United wants to play and just can't get to it or something like that. Like, is that the problem? Is it only marginally better because some of the players got marginally better, or is it slowly, like Jake is talking about the process where you're going to have some hiccups? Is it just hiccups, or it's just this is what it is until you get somebody who has like a clear idea of what he wants to do?
I think until you get somebody who has a clear idea he wants to do. I've been saying this. A lot of my United fans, some of them are okay. Let's see. A lot of United fans that I know are in the opinion of let's see how it goes. Some are like, oh, maybe it's the people that were there, the board before Ineos took over. I firmly think it's if you get a better manager, and this is why I say so. I think a lot of his recruitment that he has over-indexed on certain type of players, in my opinion, and that's shown the ways from his recruitment. Getting a player like Anthony, and Anthony is horrible. Like that signing alone should have gotten him fired. Personally, that's my personal opinion. That should have gotten him fired. I also think people tend to forget this thing that's very important. I think a manager, no matter how good your recruitment is a manager that directs the profile of what you're going to recruit, right? He's the one that tells you what profile he needs before you can go and bring your whatever director of football, however it works. So if your manager is over-indexing on certain type of profile, you're already going the wrong path. That's my personal opinion. And you can see that this year, we kind of did like two different type of recruitment. We did like club hires, which I think Ugarte, Lady Euro was a club. Those were club hires, clearly. And we did, okay, Ten Hag, you are still here. You still have your control, your contract, or whatever he said he has. Okay, you bring your guys. So that's Delites and Mazarari. Right? That's kind of what they did. They did both sides of things. So, okay, you can have your guys, but we'll still bring our own guys. And even if you have your guys, it will be people that will think, okay, even if it doesn't go well, there's a resale value. I think that's kind of what they did, in my personal opinion. So I don't think it's hiccups. I think with Ten Hag, it's just going to be one of those things where it might drag on to the end of the season just because we have talent. And I don't think it will be a train wreck like last season, right? So it will be where we're like marginally close to top four. And everybody will be like, oh, you see, because we're going to have a run of games against some bad teams that we're going to beat. But at the end of the day, ultimately, we will not make top four. We're going to finish somewhere between 5th, 6th, or 7th. I don't know where, but somewhere between there. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's bringing the band back together. It's becoming a great experiment of how would the best team in Netherlands fare in the Premier League, and I think that's what we're seeing. They do good one week, not so good the other week. Because they would if United was in Netherlands, they would play for the title. Looks like, but it doesn't work like that over here. So let's get to the big one. City 2, Arsenal 2. Before we get to Alan, because then the show might be over. Jake, let me come to you. What is your biggest takeaway from the game overall, including game, events, score? You walk away saying what?
Ooh, good question. I would say actually the biggest takeaway is that Arsenal can actually compete for the title this season. I think there were some doubts early on, but I think they showed that they can challenge City. And my biggest, take on the game is just how much that red card just ruined a great game, because the first half was so much fun up until that red card. And regardless if it was right or not, it was just a shame that we had to watch what we watched in the second half, because it was it was great defensive structure for most of it, but it was just boring because there was only one team playing, and that's just the result of the referee's decision. But yeah, my biggest takeaway is that Arsenal can still compete for the title.
Red card is a no for you then?
It's
based on what you said. Is it like a no then?
You can't put it in the referee's hands like that. It was silly, but I think it's an overreaction to give a yellow card there.
Okay. Glenn, how about you? What is your biggest takeaway coming out of this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jake. It was, I mean, yeah, it felt like we were robbed of an equally entertaining second half, right? But I think the responsibility for that lies with Trossard. I mean, he went in late. I know it was officially awarded for the yellow. The yellow was awarded for kicking the ball away officially, right? But he went in quite late, and I think there was a case to be made for even that barge to be a yellow onto itself. Then he kicks the ball away. I get it. I don't really like yellows for kicking the ball away. It's frustrating. It can really affect games like this. But you said it so well, Jake. You can't, open yourself up and make the allow the referee to make that decision. It's really in his hands before that moment, right? And yeah, with that in mind, I mean, one takeaway was obviously how brilliantly and resolutely Arsenal defended for so long. I thought it was incredible how Man City, for large parts of the game, resorted to their centre-backs taking pot shots, right? That was a large portion of the game, was Ruben Diaz shooting it wide from about 25 yards out. I mean, that just shows how excellent, Arsenal's setup was. And, they had practice, against Brighton with this. I think that actually really helped setting up in that way. And yeah, generally speaking, I mean, Gabriel is going to be a huge threat. I mean, one takeaway was Man City did not know how to deal with him right at the corners. We had Doku at first, who kind of went missing for that first big chance. And there's this brilliant little video, right, that's been clipped a lot on Twitter, which is, Kyle Walker trying to mark Gabriel, essentially just like tapping him on the chest 3 or 4 times, trying to annoy him.
What was he doing?
I know.
It was like they were playing tag.
It's ridiculous. And then he gets bulldozed. He loses him immediately, gets bulldozed out the way, and Gabriel basically smashes the ball into the net. So, I mean, it's clear that Arsenal are going to be a huge threat on attacking set pieces, and they're also going to be really good at defending set pieces. And as you kind of said, Jake, that is really the mark of a team that can be champions. So I was impressed with their spirit. I was impressed with how resolute they were across the time. And yes, they did resort to the time wasting, because why not? That's what you're kind of backed into a corner. That's what you're going to do. And I mean, David Raya, as a final point, he is a master of the dark arts, right? How long did he take with every single time he caught the ball? It's up to 20 seconds. I think the law states it's meant to be about 6 seconds. The keeper gets it and is meant to release it. He was quadrupling that. I mean, it's remarkable. So yes, Arsenal can be frustrated that the goal came so late into extended added time, but a City perspective might say, well, actually, it should have been more time added on anyway. So, there's both sides to it, but I totally agree that it's frustrating that what was such a thrilling and memorable 45 minutes at the first half became attack versus defense for the second. And I think everyone in the stadium and everyone watching on TV wanted more of that first half.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually shocked how poorly City attacked that. I mean, like those shots you're talking about, that they really missed Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, the balls that were being put in the box were not the balls that you want, like Haaland to be attacking and stuff like that. But I know if I was a City fan, I'd be extremely frustrated with how slow that ball was moving in front of the box and stuff like that. I'm like, you're not going to open up a defense if you're just passing it next to the guy very slowly, and it's very easier to defend. Alan is simmering in the background. So Ayo will come to you. What do you make of the game? What is your biggest takeaway?
A couple of points. Arsenal, like everybody has said, Arsenal are going to be there at the end of the season, like challenge for the title. I think we have also created a monster in Arsenal, right? Because for like 20 years, under Arsene Wenger, even I guess early times of Arteta, the thing was Arsenal is so soft. They're such a soft team. They become gnarly and very mean now. They have become a very hard team, gnarly, mean. They want to get stuck in, and that's a good thing for them. I think the other thing is, from a Pep's point of view, for Man City, how he goes forward without Rodri for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
and he's done it so many times. We know they lost KDB, they won the league. Haaland and KDB didn't play for a lot of last season. They still won the league. This one will be different. Like how he does without Rodri especially in the big games, in Champions League, in the league. If he still wins the league after using Rodri to the end of the season, wow, That would be ridiculous.
Once the 130 charges come in, they'll be winning League 2 probably. Don't worry about it. BX Gunner says Trossard killed our chances at really going for glory. Okay, Alan, your time has come. First of all, is there a red card?
No. For it being called a yellow on him kicking the ball away, the justification then was that he blew the whistle immediately after the foul on crashing into the City player. I forget who it was, and then that point, like half a second immediately after he blows the whistle, Trossard kicks the ball away in reaction to seeing the ball and possibly having a chance of passing it to Martinelli across the field, which is where the direction of the ball was going to go. So in my opinion, like there's no way that Trossard heard the whistle that quickly and then immediately just decided to kick the ball away when it looked like he was passing it as a cross to switch the play. So that's
I'll
my
be honest.
opinion.
I was more okay with it being a foul and a yellow card. Because why the hell are you going into the ball like that, not even looking at the guy? Yes, with the elbow up. So I was more okay with that. Then when they came back and said, no, actually the yellow is for kicking away, I was like, oh, I was okay with the other one. Like you guys didn't have to change the entire scenario. But when you rewatch, it does look like he does kick it away late, but you can't kind of like tell exactly when the whistle comes. But
quick.
why? Like going back to what Jake is saying, why even put yourself in that situation?
I think Jake is right because I think from what I remember, I thought the foul was on the elbow, right? And that would have been rightfully so. I would have been okay, fine. But the foul was actually on the kicking the ball away, which I just completely disagree with. It's a soft yellow to give, and the PGMOL whatever bull crap. They came out and said that it was for the kicking the ball away, which to me it's just kind of soft. And I think the first yellow was pretty soft too. It didn't, he held them by the shirt and he didn't really like hold them too hard. So it is what it is. But
he sounds like Arteta standards. I mean, he pulled him back, but it wasn't pulling back that hard.
I mean, hard enough to get a first yellow like that.
The first one I don't think was debatable, to be honest with you. Even Arsenal fans, I don't think. Well, maybe in the fan fest. But here's the thing. I guess right after the thing that got to me, the kicking away thing is right after it happened to Rice. I would expect the team to be a bit more conscious about it. I almost felt like he did it, the foul and the kick afterwards, as none of us, and we're kind of semi-complaining about it because it ruined the watching experience, but none of us would have expected a ref to kind of take over the game like that and show a second yellow and a red.
Yeah.
I almost felt like Trossard did it in that confidence that nobody's going to show a freaking second yellow for this.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the other thing too, is like how many instances have we seen already of like that not being given in other games and also in the same match? The City kicked the ball away earlier in the match that game. Like I don't get it. And like in the same situation, I think Liverpool had a ball that was kicked away out of play, and that wasn't called at all. That was against Forest. Like it only gets called against Arsenal. Like why is that the case? And I don't want to be like conspiracy theorist and all this stuff, but like certain calls and certain things get called against Arsenal for whatever reason. It could be because Michael Oliver is flown out to Dubai by the Man City owners to referee some games. It could be because Arsenal has historically always been hated for whatever reason I don't understand. Maybe even dates back before me.
But go ahead.
But I mean, like everyone said, like it ruined a perfectly good game of football. I thought in general, you weren't going to see what Arsenal did against Tottenham. That was based out of necessity for the tactics of what Tottenham were going to play. They were always going to be holding the ball the entire time of the game and trying to get forward and get attacking and play. And they played them into their hands. This game I felt was more open. Sure, the City had more possession, but I think Arsenal was also more daring in going forward and getting getting that goal with Calafiori showed that, and I thought we were going to get more of that. I personally thought that we were actually going to score another one either before the half or even after the half, but unfortunately we had to play with 10 men down, and Arteta had to fix tactics and the mental, the mentality of this team has continued to impress me, especially of the defense and especially of all the players from Raya, even Raya, how he's been playing, to even Lewis Skelly coming in and putting in a performance, like a short little performance for a defender, even getting a yellow card off the bench. Good for him. And it's unfortunate that we weren't able to get all 3 points, but I think Jake even said it, and Glenn, you said it, that this is the mark of a team that's going to compete for the championship, and let's hopefully this becomes more of that.
I guess, defense wins championships, like they say, Glenn,
Yeah.
and this team can defend. They've shown that. And we'll get to the second goal, because I wanted to ask you guys about that as well, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the game is changing so much and so inconsistently. God knows where the hell it's going. But let me answer this. Ayo talked about this team being tougher, and, Alan is saying the same thing. At the same time, because of how Arteta, the Lego head, is on the sideline and his impact on the thing, can this team kind of control itself despite the manager on the side? Because you see Havertz starting the game like an asshole 5 seconds into the game. I realize it's about setting a tone and stuff like that. That elbow is higher. He is leaving the game instantly, it felt like, because it was very clearly intentional. And then you see the Declan Rice red, which obviously is for a second yellow. This one is a second yellow, but is that a concern that the team sometimes can't control their emotions? Because if you look at the sideline to control your emotions, you should not, because it's only going to get worse.
I don't think it's an issue. I think it's just going to be, they're going to grow into it. They're going to realize that, some of these mistakes, I do agree that Havertz came in a little bit too hard. It maybe should have gotten more than what was given. And you're right. If that elbow had gone up higher, it would have definitely gotten ahead. At the same time, I think Roddy just also asked for it. He saw him coming at him and stepped into where Havertz was going. So it is what it is. I think the emotional aspect of it all. I think football is emotional in general. I think we're also talking about players that are, for the majority, between 20 and 25. These are young kids. When you put it that way, I know that they're still maturing. They're still learning. They don't have fully developed brains, because I think at 25, 26 is when we finally reach that point. But these are also men that are being paid to win a championship at this point. And I think you're right. I think if they don't emotionally mature, then they'll eventually they can eventually lose out on a lot more than what they can get. And I think this team has the potential to win multiple titles or multiple trophies this season. It's just about controlling some of those emotions.
And I think that's my thing. And I don't know, like Glenn, I don't know what you think. As like an outsider looking in, but when you have, like Alan is saying, these young guys on the pitch, there's really nobody. I don't see anybody on that team on the pitch, which if you said it was Rice, well, it wasn't. Obviously, you found out last week. There is nobody on the pitch that can maybe control the emotions, it feels like, right? Like they don't have a couple of veterans. You have more actually guys like that are easier to come out of control. That's when you normally would want to look at the side and like see a guy who says, keep your head in the game. Well, you see a guy on the sideline, his head is way out of the game. So can that be an issue? Obviously, we all want emotion out of the managers or, out of our team and stuff, but you kind of want controlled emotion. I can yell at the TV. You can't yell at the ref, kind of an ordeal.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair point. And I do agree. But what I would also add, I definitely agree from Arteta perspective that those emotions, right, can flood out during a game, before the game, after the game, but certainly during those 90 minutes. He does kick every ball with the team, right? And there is this certain sense of, I think, a bunker mentality with the Arsenal team, which is, we're in this together. let's cut out the outside noise. People are going to be, always critiquing from the sidelines and, having these issues with the team and our performance and our behavior. But if we just support each other, then we can get through it. And I think that's a good thing to have. I do agree with you that, you need to have cool heads, right? And it's, as you mentioned, it's difficult to see who is that older, calming presence. I mean, Gabriel and Saliba, I know they're not super old, but do they need to kind of step in sometimes as, senior members, at least, of the team, in the sense that they have a real duty at the back? That they're a team that lead from the back, right? And we saw that over the 90 minutes. What I'd also say, though, is that this Arsenal team did get under Man City's skin, especially in the first half. And when I think about that game, and I think about outpourings of emotion, the one moment that stands out to me is Pep kicking his chair after conceding one of those goals, right? That's something that, I would think maybe some form of that might come from Arteta, whether it's a water bottle or shouting or whatever. But it was Pep who, he's animated too, but he doesn't often have that flash of really, really obvious, just like fury. Like he clearly couldn't control that. I mean, it doesn't set a great example if Arteta's complaining and stuff, and that doesn't set a great example. It also doesn't set a great example for Pep to be, demolishing chairs in their own stadium. And that was testament to how well Arsenal had kind of, up until that point, manufactured the game. Now, from a City perspective, you'd say, well, they were frustrated about a call. That's what I loved about this first half. There were so many talking points, right? We had yellow cards, we had fouls. I think City had a fair point when Kyle Walker was frustrated that he didn't have enough time to get back to his position after the referee called him forward. I think he has a legitimate grievance there. I think if he goes of his own accord, it's one thing and he's complaining, sure, play on. But if the referee calls you over and then restarts play, and Martinelli, one of the quickest players in the Premier League, is on your wing and has half a second, because that's all Martinelli needs. He needs half a second to find that space and lay it off. And yes, it was a wonder goal, of course, and it was a beautiful finish. But so I guess my point was both managers and both sets of players, their emotions really flared up, which was, for that first half, what made it such an enthralling contest, especially for somebody who isn't invested in either team. I mean, I prefer Arsenal to win over Man City, but I don't really mind that much either way. That passion, that
finally,
passion,
Ellen has a friend.
that drove the game, and I think that really turned it into such a fantastic aesthetic contest. And again, it's a shame that it was such a different second half.
Oh, it was a dream scenario, I think. I mean, the rest of us, like a draw, red cards, injuries. I mean, I hate to say it, but, it couldn't have worked out better probably for like Liverpool, for example. But Jake, I want to ask you this, because Brian says the second goal for Arsenal was more questionable. Glenn just brought that up. I want to get your take on that one too, that Kyle Walker was complaining about. I mean, it wasn't even close. I get annoyed when refs push the ball like 4 feet back and say, no, it was over here. But it wasn't even close. It was like literally the other side of the pitch is where they took the kick from. But this whole, I mean, it's not because it's only Arsenal. We're seeing this more and more and more. In the NFL over here in the American sports, you can't even cough next to the quarterback now. So, like, the rules are changing the other way. Whereas you could not touch the goalies, right? I mean, that was the goal. The goalie was the quarterback. Like, you couldn't be around them. You couldn't touch them. You had like a sphere of circle around them and stuff like that. Whereas now, I mean, I look at that goal. I feel like every time Martinelli does that, that's a foul, because similar to, let's go back to NFL again, like a cornerback not looking at the ball. Martinelli is not even looking at the ball. He has no intention of going for the ball. All he is doing is impeding. How is that any different than, like setting a moving pick? It would be called off in like basketball, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I don't think there's much difference. And I think Arsenal's going to just keep doing it the rest of the season because it's working, and they're not getting called for it. And, if it's not going to get called, why not keep doing it? So,
do you think they will kind of like change it and start calling it? Because they're like, yeah, that does look a little weird.
It's tough to do it mid-season. I know that they did like a slight tweak to the wording about it at the beginning of the season, but I haven't seen much, different calls being made because of it. So I think they're just going to keep doing it. They have great set pieces, and it's one of the ways that they score goals in tough games where they're not producing as much as they would like to from open play. And that's one of the ways that good teams, become champions, is by getting those set piece plays when they're not being able to produce from open play. So, props to them for continuing to do it. If you're not going to get called for it, you know, by all means, keep going for it. I think they should change the rules a little bit. I think they should, you know, go back to protecting the keeper to a small extent, but not how it was previously, where if you got anywhere near him, it was like foul on the outfield player, you know, free kick for the defending team. So I don't know. I think it's fair play, but I don't like it.
Yeah, and this, like Tim Howard was talking about, like, as the goalie, you should be going to the right. And it's like, okay, like that's not my job. I shouldn't have to point out everything. But I think that's what we're asking for now is like the goalie to almost act it out and not just like still try to go for the ball and act like they ran into a wall and fall or something like that. I mean, and you do this, right? It's part of the game. Like if you're, I mean, I was a defender. If you kind of gets hits after you kick the ball away, you point out to the linesman and you say, you see that shit? Because he just freaking did it again, kind of a thing. And then you eventually get that guy a yellow card. And I understand that that's part of the game, but it shouldn't really like come to that, to be honest with you. I feel like, yeah, it's getting less and less and less. I do think they will make a rule adjustment, though. But like you're saying, Jake, I don't know if it will be mid-season. Ayo, what did you think about those both calls? The ball starting from the other side of the pitch and like the goalies. I mean, like I said, the goalie thing is definitely not just this game. Every club is starting to do this now where they crowd around the goalie. So it's not Arsenal specific. They were just doing this where it wasn't even just crowding. They had like one guy literally kind of like backing into the goalie as he's turning and stuff. But what did you make of it, Ayo?
Correct. I think that hasn't happened since last season, right? Arsenal has been doing that since last season, blocking out. And I thought I heard a rule, I think Jake mentioned it, where they were going to stop the blocking thing. I thought I heard that beginning of the season, but yeah, they're not calling it for Arsenal. I'm shocked they're not, because I heard that they said they were going to stop doing that. They were going to start calling those blocking things. I think it's unfair because what happens is if a keeper tries to get aggressive, right, like try to push people out or like go through, it could lead to a penalty, right? That was literally one of the penalties that I think Onana didn't get called for last season in the first game of the season against Wolves, right? That they made a meal out of it. So yeah, I think it's wrong that they don't like that they allowed that. I think it's in favor of the attacking team to do that, in my opinion, when you do that. And I suspect they're going to make a rule change, essentially, just because a lot of people are going to continue doing that. It's going to lead to like the melee in one of the games, I think. So they're going to change it at some point. And I think Arsenal know that. That's why they're like, you know, taking advantage of it, right? And they probably have a plan to try, you know, a different type of set piece. Like they have like a couple of routines that they always try for their set piece, that their set piece coach, you know, always does. So that goal was very questionable for sure. I think both goals were questionable, right? The first goal, they moved it like 8 yards. I saw Sky Sports showing it like there was like 8 yards or NBC. They moved like 8 yards to take it, and they called Kyle Walker. So like that's questionable, you know. But hey, it's fine. It happens. So when it comes to referees, right? I'm one of those few people that's like calls will go in your favor, against your favor. Among my friends, I'm one of those people like, you know, someone was making a joke today, like, oh, Ayo wants to work for the PGMOL. That's his future ambition. Because I'm always, when people talk about referees, I'm just like, it goes your way. Sometimes it goes like, it's fine. Like, that's not why you're going to not win your league or win your league. Like, it's fine. Like, Arsenal, in my opinion, the game against Spurs, I think Gabriel pushed Romero. Referee didn't say anything that was similar to the type of push that happened to Gabriel against Newcastle last season. The Arsenal fans were going mad on social media. But the only difference was Gabriel flopped when he got touched at the back. He flopped. Yes. That's the same. It's literally the same push. But no Arsenal fan cared about it last week. They didn't care. They were saying that they won. You know, so that's the thing. That this week when Arsenal fans are crying on social media, I'm like, guys, you didn't care last week. Like, football fans generally, right? My point is football fans generally do not care about consistency of refs. What they care about instead is that the refs' fake calls go in their favor. Every football fan. That's what they care about. So when people try to paint it like we care about consistency, you don't care about consistency. You want all the calls to go your way. Because when they go in your favor, everybody keeps their mouth shut. Nobody talks about it. You know, so that's just how it goes. So that's why refs, I don't really know talking about it as much like people, because I think it's a very incredibly difficult job, in my opinion. Right? I know we have bad refereeing, standards refereeing up and down. I think it's an incredibly difficult job. That's my opinion.
I think it was just shocking that it was against City. That's why everybody was surprised, I think, because even I loved Arteta's reaction when the call went against Arsenal and like when the red card happened, because he had the look of a guy who knows behind the scenes what happens at City, because he's been there. He was like, this is how it works. This is how it always works. Like he looked like his reaction was like, I know this, damn it. I was on the other side. These guys get all the calls. And I think that's why it was shocking that, City got those calls against them, but they made it right at the end. I'm sure they'll make it even more right once these charges come out. But let's take a quick peek into next week. The big game obviously is going to be United Tottenham, and we have both of you guys over here. Ayo gave a little bit of what he's expecting. Jake, what are you expecting out of this? Away at Old Trafford, which is never easy. When Liverpool won there, I mean, I felt, that's a huge win. We know how United can be up and down and stuff, but it's a tough place to go to regardless. It's always almost like going away to Newcastle. There are certain places that's tough to go to.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a tough one for Spurs. I don't disagree with Ayo. I think it does have draw kind of written all over it. I think both teams are going to concede. I could see United starting Garnacho or Ahmad out there on the right with Rashford on the left and using their pace to break our really high line that we like to play. Just have Bruno put in one of his marquee passes through the lines. So I don't know. It's I don't like going to any of the big six away grounds, the other big six away grounds. So it's just I don't have a good feeling about it. We won there during COVID, I'm pretty sure, but that's about it. So I would take a draw out of this, but I don't know. We're coming off a good performance. They're coming off a bad performance. So momentum's on our side. I'd like to see us go for it. Hopefully United play as open as Brentford were playing because that just feeds right into our hands. So it'll be a fun match. But yeah, 2-2 is my prediction.
Well, that's a fun one. I'll take that. A bigger game for you guys or bigger game for United, you think, Jake?
Oh, I mean, I think, at least from my perspective, their manager is under more scrutiny. So probably bigger game for them. But, we want to win every game. So big game for both, but slightly more for United.
I actually agree. How about you, Ayo? I mean, because if Ten Hag loses at home to Spurs, it's a bigger ordeal than Spurs losing. Maybe because it's away or because they've been up and down anyway, or he's not at least on the hot seat. But like bigger game for you guys?
Absolutely. Right. Ten Hag has won what? He's won 3 or 4 games, 4 games in the last 12, if you stretch it from last season. Right. So that's a horrible record. And why is the big game, especially because the next game is away at Villa, right? We're going to Villa next, and Ten Hag's record, away record against Big 6, Big 10, Big 9 is horrific. That's horrific record. So I think it's a big game for him. Absolutely, it's a must-win for him. It's actually a must-win because if he drops that game, and we certainly are going to drop points at Villa Park. I know we won there last season miraculously, but I think we're not winning there this season for sure. I'm almost confident about that. We're not winning at Villa Park. And because of that, it's a big game for him. It's a big game. And I feel it will end in a draw. I could see United sneak it just because of, Jake, the Spurs highline is ridiculous, I think. And Spurs just have this thing where against us, they make terrible mistakes anytime they play against us. Like it happens even prior. So the days of Poch, right? When they come to Old Trafford, they make all these stupid errors anytime they play United, But I can see a draw. Both teams have like big issues. Spurs high press will cause us a lot of problems. I see their midfield costing us a lot of problems for sure because Ten Hag's trying to figure out, should I play Ugarte with Maino? Should I play Eriksen? Because Eriksen plays the last 3 games against a couple of bad teams. But when you play a good midfield, out of possession, Eriksen is horrible. It's just like a hologram. It's going to get run past. So, no, it's true. It's true. In possession, he's good. Well, out of possession, he's like a hologram. You're carrying Eriksen. And that's going to be a problem against Spurs. So, I can see it ending in a draw.
I think it's gonna be an entertaining watch, so that'll make my Sunday morning. But okay, we do. Glenn, you're new to the thing. We'll start with you, Alan. Show Glenn how it's done. But this is a segment we do at the end of every show. We help Tonali place bets. It's Tonali's picks. I'm gonna put the games on the screen, and then you get to name the upset that Tonali should be betting on. So let's start with this fixture right here. Alan, we'll start with you. Who are you picking for the upset? Leicester City or?
Ooh, you know what? Ipswich at home. It is a tough week to pick, but I'm gonna go Ipswich at home. I'm a daring man this week.
That's a good shot, actually. Villa kind of struggled, and they play in Europe midweek.
Yeah,
so that's and then they're not as used to those short. And Unai does not believe in rotation very much, as Shay always complains about. But
I complain about it.
Take your pick.
Well, in honor of Glenn being here, we can call it Tony's picks for this segment. But yeah, let's see. I was going to say Everton Crystal Palace game, but I don't really know if either of those could be an upset. So I'm going to go with the mighty Wolves at home against the the home team for this page. Sorry about that. And that's my pick.
Don't like it. I can tell you that. Glenn, who are you going with?
It's a tricky one this week, isn't it? I'm just kind of staring at the fixtures, and it's really hard to call. Got my eye on a couple. I like the ones that have already been picked. Ipswich will create a great atmosphere at home. I think that's a really smart shout. I'm looking at Brighton, but I'm just seeing Chelsea, as we said earlier, just kind of come into what looks to be a little bit more of a consistent, confident play. I'm going to say, let's just put it on the line and say Leicester. I would love it if Jamie Vardy really upset Arteta and co. I would love a Jamie Vardy winner. So I'm gonna go all out with that.
I love Glenn already. Ayo, who do you have for the upset?
Oh, I think it's easy for me. It's an easy one this week. I think it's Brighton. I think Chelsea have been running hot. I heard you saying about Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea has been running hot, in my opinion. They played bad team. I think West Ham is a bad team, and we could talk about that some other time. I think Brighton's going to upset Chelsea. I'm very confident about that.
I was going to go with Newcastle, but if I do, it'll be a jinx, and they'll lose like 3-0. So I'm going to go with Brighton as well. I think they will pull something off. And they don't have like the Europe thing anymore. So, right? Brighton is not in Europe this year. They're not competing midweek. No. So, I feel like they will. That's what really hurt them last year. I feel like they can build play, take advantage of that Chelsea team. We'll see. A good thing Jamie left because we didn't get to get his take on this, but he'll join us next week, I'm sure. But this is great. The panel is getting bigger and bigger. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining us. Thanks to all those following along. Share the link, hit all those thumbs up and all that stuff down there. Anything except the thumbs down. Pass the words. Give us a subscribe as well. The panel is on right now every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Central. And as we get bigger, we're hoping to split the panel into two and maybe have like the matchups talk to each other and stuff like that down the road. And if we can't find a Brentford fan, we can find any fan. So that's going to be our next. Well, welcome to the panel, Glenn. Ayo, welcome back, sir. Nice seeing you again. Jake, Alan, as always. Thanks a lot to everybody, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.